Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams.
Where we scream so you don't scream.
We're your host, Alex.
And Stephanie.
And this week, we reaffirm our pact with a demonic vampire in Nosferatu.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we post new episodes.
Nosferatu is a 2024 American supernatural Gothic horror film written and directed by Robert Eggers. It is a remake of the 1922 silent film, itself inspired by Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. Nosferatu is a Gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has 85%, with a critical consensus that states, marvelously orchestrated by director Robert Eggers, Nosferatu is a behemoth of a horror film that is equal parts repulsive and seductive. It also has a 75% audience score.
One night, a young girl named Ellen cries out in prayer, desperately seeking comfort from an unseen spirit to ease her deep loneliness. Her plea is answered by a mysterious, malevolent entity who claims that she awakened him as she is not meant for humankind. And in a trance-like state, Ellen pledges herself to the entity. He then attacks her and leaves her convulsing on the ground outside. It's very dramatic.
So, this is not a dream. This actually happened?
I guess so.
Right? And this is like what started the whole ordeal. Is like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm so desperate for comfort.
Yeah,
and then
the catch there is, though, she's like, an angel, a spirit, anything. And I'm like, you don't put the anything in there.
Girl, you do not put that anything clause at the end of your statement.
Not when you're trying to speak into the ether, no.
Okay, so basically she was lonely, she was upset, and she was like, please, somebody.
Yeah. They talk about it briefly a little bit later in the plot, too. Like, she always has, like, a strangeness about her as well that people find off-putting.
She's like, I'm not like other girls.
Yeah. So she's just desperately lonely because she is not the same as everyone else.
Okay.
Not
okay,
that girl.
I'm not that girl. Couldn't be me. Yes. Okay, because it happened, and I was like, what? Like, what's happening here? Like, it's a cold open,
right
basically.
Yeah.
So I was confused as to whether or not that happened. That was a dream. Like, what's going on
I
here?
thought it was kind of dreamlike until later on, where she's like, no, for sure it happened. I was like, oh, all right, Ellen, just tell everybody this is the 1830s. You don't tell people shit about that.
I know. I mean, we come to find they're like, Ellen's fine. She's just a little silly.
A little strange.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. A few years later, in the winter of 1838, Ellen resides in Weisburg, Germany, alongside her new husband, Thomas Hutter, who works as a solicitor and estate agent. In pursuit of financial stability, Thomas accepts a commission from his employer, Herr Nock, to sell Schloss Grunenwald, an old and dilapidated mansion in Weisburg, to the reclusive and eccentric Count Orlok. Unbeknownst to Thomas, his arrangement is part of an occult deal between Nock and Orlok.
Who would have known?
Yeah,
you know?
No, he's like giddy telling him about it. He's like, by the way, it's going to be far away.
Not to compare this to the old one, the 1922, but have you ever seen it before?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so obviously everything from that movie is so like over the top. It's very like stage play. Okay. He's like, in the original, he's like,
okay. So this is restrained in comparison.
Yeah, it is.
Because I was like, no, this man is definitely setting you up.
Exactly. But like, I mean, let's first of all assume if you're working in real estate is evil. Second of all, who would have known? Like, this is crazy. What do you mean?
Yeah. Like Charlie and I looked at each other in the theater, and I was like, and I bet he can't only sign at night too. Like, because he was just like, well, he's old and he's far away. He won't be leaving his house. You'll have to go to him. Right. Like, oh,
that's exactly what's happening. So gotta go. But who would have thought, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's nothing like this. So yeah. I guess Thomas has to travel for 6 weeks to Transylvania
to accidentally make a pact or whatever deal.
Yeah. Well, he's purchasing real estate. That's really what he's doing. But there's some other stuff happening.
Right. So mainly buying a house, secondarily occult bullshit.
Yes. Undertone.
It's fine.
Ellen grows increasingly anxious and pleads with Thomas to stay by her side, revealing that before their wedding, she had a dream in which she married death, surrounded by corpses, and found herself oddly enjoying it. Straight to jail. That's where you go.
Right. And this is why I was confused about whether the first part happened or not, because now she's having these dreams.
Yes.
But she's horny for death.
Oh, yeah. She's like, it was kind of nice.
The sweet embrace of death.
Yes.
Literally. Absolutely. Actually.
Right. Dismissing her fears as recurring nightmares from childhood, Thomas sets off for Orlok's castle in the Carpathian Mountains of Transylvania, leaving her under the care of their wealthy friend Friedrich Harding, his pregnant wife, Anna, and their 2 daughters. This friend... Go ahead.
No, you go. No, you first.
With all that happens with this girl, to think that I'm guessing this is like a college friend, school friend of some sort, and then he's like, here, watch my new wife for 6 weeks, and then she acting like this. I'm sorry, I don't care how good of a friend we are, but your wife crazy. She needs to be not in my house.
Oh my God, I thought you were gonna say the opposite. I thought you were gonna be like, because
no, I sympathize with this man entirely. Okay. Honestly, I don't love what he does in the end, but otherwise, I'm like, I get it. Protect your family. He is like a very nice man, excited about his children and his new baby, and then he's got to put up with all this bullshit.
Ellen just always be like, "Woe is me! I am so lonely. There's a devil coming to get me." It's like, ma'am, I need to go to work and provide for my family. Can you not right now?
Yeah, and imagine too, the children, the night that Thomas leaves her, are like, "There's a monster under our bed. We can hear him breathing," and then imagine your new house guest is just screaming and undulating in the next room.
She's like, "They're right. They're absolutely right." It's like, do not feed into this.
Yes,
because he doesn't really necessarily believe in what's going on, it seems like.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd be like, sorry, lady. Do you have a friend you could stay with?
Yeah. How about you stay at the hospital? How about that?
Something.
Sounds like a good place.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I hate to be like, Ellen.
It's not like I disagree. I believe whatever's happening to her is happening. And I think on a degree he understands that too. But he's trying to shield his family from that too. So
right. He's not equipped to deal with this, which nothing against him. I don't think anyone's equipped to deal with what's happening. So no shade to him. But yeah, he's a very nice friend, because I don't know if I could deal with that for 6 weeks. Oh my God.
I feel like this is an unpopular opinion. We're a Friedrich apologist of some sort.
I mean, realistically, put yourself in his shoes, right? Come on. If from the outside looking in, sure, I don't know.
He needs to believe her and understand something's happening. But if you didn't have anybody else to care about, sure, let her do that. But
right. He has 2 kids. And we'll get to, later in the plot. It doesn't work out for him very much.
No, it's actually pretty bad. His family suffers the most.
So, well, here we are. Friedrich being a good friend.
Right. So upon arriving in Transylvania, Thomas is ostracized by the local Romani villagers for associating with Orlok. That night, he witnesses the villagers impaling what they claim is a vampire's corpse with an iron stake. The corpse reacts violently, jolting in pain and vomiting blood. So, this was, all a ritual, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to be another vampire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I was a little confused, because then he wakes up, and then they're all gone and stuff like that, too. So I'm like, oh, did it not really happen? Is it, prophesizing in a way?
Well, so they show him in bed with his shoes on, covered in mud, so leads me to believe that it actually happened. And yeah, I think they go around and just try to, they're like vampire hunters, basically.
Okay.
A troop of vampire hunters, because they were there for that, and once they did the ritual, they were gone.
Yeah.
So based on what we saw, they go around and kill these vampires. And I mean, yeah, the corpse reacted, so it must have been real?
Yeah, I'm guessing.
But also, it was buried in the ground. So was this vampire just chilling there? Because I know you have. So vampire has to be buried in the earth that it was buried in, or sleep in the earth that it was buried in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So was this a newly made vampire? Do you think? And they were like trying to get it before it comes back up?
Maybe. Because I was like, so if that's the case, like, why didn't you go to the castle and get rid of that one? Like, that seems like a problem. Like,
I feel like there's more hoops to go through to get to Orlok's castle.
Yeah, I guess so. But maybe the vampire they killed had not made a pact with anybody yet, and like had yet to be like awakened. He was like in a semi state. I don't know.
So does the vampire have to make a pact with an entity to be able to come back up? Is that what you're saying?
Well, Nosferatu says in the very beginning, like, I was asleep for like hundreds of years and then you awoken me. Like, you are not of humankind. So like she must have somehow compelled him to come forward. And I don't know if somebody else has to do that with that vampire. Otherwise, he just sleepy. Like,
could you imagine? Oh my God. So like you're a newly formed vampire, but you can't actually do anything until someone calls out to you.
Yeah.
So now you're just like laying in your grave.
Yeah. Just waiting, like, being like, someone's got to make a house call sometime. Like,
I'm available. Yeah. I'm not doing nothing right now. I'm free.
Yeah.
Like, want to give me a call? I'm on speed dial.
1-800. Like,
1-800 Rise Alex, 1-800 Bring Forth Stephanie. Like one of the like something.
Just something. Like, I'll be listening. Like,
I'm ready. I'm bored.
I don't know. Who knows?
Okay, so yeah, they just kill this vampire that is just chilling at this point. Yeah,
I feel bad too. They also run off with his horse, and then he has to like journey quite some time to the castle. So the following evening, Thomas arrives at the castle where he is met by the impatient and threatening Orlok. Orlok insists on finalizing the sale of Schloss Grunwald, immediately dismissing Thomas's questions about the villagers and his earlier experience. Also, he arrived by coachless, or like without a driver, of a cabbie with horses and stuff like that. And the door just automatically opens. And I think it's just like he's already under the trance. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I was going to say, he gets in
I was like,
and
nope.
questions nothing. He's like, this is fine. I'm just going to go in. I mean,
this pack of wolves is chasing behind it too. Like,
which is badass, honestly. I'm like, this is the coolest thing. But yeah, Thomas, hello.
My guy.
Pull it together, unless he is under the trance already, and there's really not much he could do.
Compelled to be there because Orlok wants him there.
But that was a cool visual. I will say this movie.
Oh yeah, like the winding
visually appealing
path and everything. Like that's great.
Behind us, for those watching the video, it's our background. This is what you see. There's this castle in the background, looking all menacing and scurry.
Mm-hmm. When Thomas accidentally cuts his thumb on a bread knife, Orlok mesmerizes him and drinks his blood. The next night, Orlok takes a locket from Thomas that contains a lock of Ellen's hair and compels him to sign a mysterious document written in, he calls it his native tongue. It's occult stuff. It's occult language.
Yeah, again, just signing shit you should not be signing, sir.
I'm like, I'm surprised he didn't have him do it in blood, but okay.
Yeah, that document looked evil. It looked bad. Yes. And he's like, okay.
Right. He's like, I'd really just like to go.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's no going now.
No. We're going to be neighbors. Doesn't he say something like that?
Yeah. Something.
He's like, we're going to be neighbors now. In the original, again, it's like literally right across the street. It's like, I'm moving in there.
Just right next door. I'm technically already there.
Yeah. He's like, can I borrow a cup of sugar?
Yeah. Plagued by nightmares and seduced by Orlok in the guise of Ellen, a weakened and feverish Thomas demands to return home. However, Orlok insists he remains until he recovers. Later, Thomas discovers Orlok asleep in his coffin and attempts to kill him with a pick. Orlok awakens and retaliates, assaulting him and feeding on his blood, leaving him for dead. It's quite the thing, yeah. Fully naked, rises out of the coffin and just pursuing him.
Right. And okay, so forgive me for not understanding the documentation process of buying a house in this time period. But so if he kills Thomas, like since he signed the paper, is like Thomas not needed anymore, or does Thomas need to come back and be like, "Hey, he did it. Here's the papers," or can Orlok just be like, "Got him"?
I mean,
Like,
Orlok has a lackey working at the real estate office, so I'm
that's
sure
true.
he's like, I just picked up the phone, like I signed it. It's mine now. Like,
we good?
yeah,
We
I guess
Gucci?
so.
We good? All right. See you in a couple days. Yeah, I guess you're right. Like Thomas is to be disposed of.
Because Thomas was acting like, I signed, I can go, and he's like, no, you said you were sick. You can't go while you're sick.
Do you think he was always planning to just kill Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, might as well just get him out of the way.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I forget the fact that his employer is in cahoots with Orlok.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I guess it does not matter. So never mind, Thomas, you could die.
Yeah, I think so. That's what they're saying. The next morning, while fleeing from Orlok's wolves, I'm guessing he chased him like all through the night, and then eventually it was just like the dogs left because, Orlok got to go night-night. But but then the wolves are still chasing him, and he like climbs out this window and falls into a river. He is rescued and cared for by Orthodox nuns at a nearby church who encourage him to stay there and recover. They also basically suggest that he will need to stay in a church to stay away from being compelled by Orlok any further. And he's like, no, I gotta get back to Ellen.
Honestly, Ellen, girl, you and Orlok deserve each other. Like, no, that sounded bad. Ellen doesn't deserve Orlok. They are meant for each other just because of what had happened. Like, they're compelled, they're attracted. I don't know what to do. Like, cut your losses at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what you could do, man. So he runs back to Weisburg to protect Ellen. Meanwhile, Orlok sets sail for Weisburg with a crate of grave dirt and rats carrying the plague. A lot of rats. Too many.
I mean, I think you need a good amount of rats to start a plague. So he was like, honestly, probably more than he needed. But you just got to make sure.
You got to over-prepare.
I mean, if you're going to do all this process to get ready for a plague, like you might as well make sure it happens.
Yeah.
So just get millions of rats because that's basically
what
how many he brings.
They're all just like sleeping in his grave with him. They're nice little pets, I guess, for him.
Do you find rats scary or gross?
Yes.
You don't like them? Okay. I think they're so adorable. I mean, outside of them carrying many a disease, visually, I think rats are very adorable.
No, I mean, I love American Tail, and all that kind of stuff, but no, they can't be in my house. I mean, I guess if you want to keep a rat as a pet, that's your business. But
okay. Couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me.
So is it their tail that grosses you out or just the whole thing?
It's the scurrying. I've not in our house, but we have had a mouse in our previous home, a couple of them, and no. Just no.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they're in your house, I hate that. But as an animal, I find them adorable.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they're not causing me any harm in my living situation, why not? Why not them be somewhere? But
gotcha.
Not in my home.
Yeah, for sure. Unwanted rat, no, goodbye.
Yes. So he sets sail for Weisburg with a crate full of grave dirt and rats carrying the plague, killing the ship's crew along the way. Back in Weisburg, Ellen experiences sleepwalking and seizures, which her doctor Wilhelm Sivers struggles to treat. As her condition deteriorates, Sivers consults his mentor Albin Eberhard von Franz, an accomplished scientist ostracized in Switzerland for his occult beliefs. Von Franz deduces that Ellen is under the influence of Nosferatu, a demonic vampire associated with the plague. Friedrich remains skeptical, attributing her symptoms to worry over Thomas's absence. I'm I think it's beyond that at this point.
Okay, so as someone who suffers from anxiety and worrying a lot, it's never been like that, where I'm almost flopping out of the bed, back bending, just screaming,
practically
convulsing.
Levitating off the bed, no.
If that's an anxiety disorder, oh my God.
I don't want that.
I don't want that. And I don't think any kind of medicine's going to fix that.
No.
So, yeah, okay. I understand being skeptical, but my God. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's more, or okay, at least it's not just worrying. Like, it may, be some kind of other condition, but it's not just worrying. Let's put it that way.
Right. Like, it's not even hysterics at this point. Like, I think anyone could understand her being sad about her newly departed, well, her not newly departed, her new husband having to be away from her for so long and stuff like that, and then being with, virtually strangers. But they're just like, she must really miss him.
really
really
miss him. Like, this is some codependency bullshit.
Meanwhile, Nock is institutionalized after a violent episode, and both he and Ellen predict Orlok's arrival. Sivers and von Franz realize that both are affected by the same dark force, and while searching Nock's office, they uncover that Orlok is indeed the Nosferatu. Nock is arguably worse than Nosferatu, I think.
So?
Because he is biting heads off things.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
He's just a menace to society.
I think Orlok's probably done worse, but he's not. Yeah, Nock is also very bad. Like, it's weird that, I guess he's doing more than Ellen, but like, he was institutionalized. And they're just like, Ellen's just worried.
Ellen's just very sad, guys. Like,
I guess she hasn't bit the head off of anything yet, so I guess that might be what pushes you over.
And I guess Nock is more of like a minion, so like Orlok doesn't need her to be like a psycho, I guess. Just needs her to wait patiently for her to come. So
so Ellen's issue is caused by Orlok. Nock's issue is just because he's crazy. That's basically what it is. Like,
kinda, yeah. And this man naked biting heads off pigeons, like
as you do. Typical Tuesday.
Maybe he misses his wife.
It's gotta be it, right?
Yeah. Thomas returns to Weisberg as Orlok's arrival brings the plague. Nock escapes from custody, murders a porter, and leads Orlok to Schloss Grunenwald. In a dream, Orlok taunts Ellen, claiming he has tricked Thomas into signing divorce papers. He warns her she must reaffirm the pact she made when summoning him as a child, or he will kill Thomas and allow the plague to ravage Weisberg. Shocked by the revelation of Ellen's past interactions with Orlok, Thomas confronts her and she chastises him for his weakness and for succumbing to the Count. I'm like, what? Like, girl, this is all you've been doing. Like,
yeah. Like,
how dare you like be as weak as I?
What, as weak as Thomas, or
like she's basically saying to Thomas, like, how dare you be as weak as I am?
Oh,
like,
yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. Like, she's putting the blame on him, but like, girl, you've just succumbed to this whole time,
right? And surprisingly, they violently have sex to prove their love, like a big F you to Orlok, apparently.
And they're like going through it, and then they're just like, let's do it. And they're like, okay. And then immediately just start going at it.
Yeah, well, she crawls up to him, and she's like looking up at him, and I was like, oh, she's about to bite his dick. Like, because we've seen the other guy biting heads off stuff.
Yeah, she's gonna bite a head,
maybe this
too.
is her time. Like,
her time to shine. Her time to sparkle.
I guess, but no, they just have sex violently. And Orlok retaliates by brutally murdering Anna and her children to showcase his power. It's very bad. Like,
right, like,
he
that's
comes
not
back
fair.
for Anna. He gets her twice, technically. Like, he sends the rats in to get her, and like Ellen just wakes up to see her on the floor being like ravaged, like bitten by rats. Oof, just and then comes back and kills her the next night after he kills our kids.
Right, like, what why them? Like, yeah, it's because they were taking care of Ellen, but like, they were just housing her. Like, they don't have nothing to do with this. Yeah,
well, he said you had 3 days, tonight's the first night. Every night I'm going to come back and kill someone that you care about until you come back on the third night. And
so
you'll be here on the third night. Like,
yeah. So really, Ellen was being very selfish now.
Kind of.
She's like,
she should have done this night one. Like,
I mean, yeah. Do you think, was she just going to be like, that's okay. He's not actually going to do anything.
I don't know. I mean, she has sex with Thomas, like, as if she just like really commits to Thomas, like, it'll just change everything. I think maybe she hadn't considered that ultimately she's going to have to sacrifice herself to Orlok and give in. I think that she was still, like, in denial of having to do that.
He's like, I'm just going to prolong this, and anyone who dies in the process, it's fine.
Whoops. Look. Oh, how was I to know?
Right. How could I ever see that happening?
Yeah. But then there's still, like, this weird, like, sexual tension between her and Orlok. Like, when he comes to confront her anyway, I'm like, I don't know, man. It seems like you're kind of into it, so...
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, a vampire, that's part of their thing. They're seductive, though...
he's no Edward Cullen. But...
Yeah, I was going to say, if you've seen... We haven't talked about his appearance, which we will later, but not it.
Not it for us. After the funeral, von Franz and Ellen devise a plan to trap Orlok and keep Thomas away from her to protect him, as she has resolved to sacrifice herself for the sake of the city. So this is after, like 2 nights of this. Soon after, a grief-stricken Friedrich succumbs to the plague while engaging in necrophilia with his wife's corpse. I'm like, oh man, like, we were so sympathetic to you until this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to chalk that up to just... delirium.
He's sick with the plague.
Yeah, okay. Look, I don't condone necrophilia, obviously, but he was literally gonna die 2 seconds later.
Yeah, so. He was just tidying it up. When Sivers, Thomas, and von Franz discover him, they burn the family mausoleum. Yeah, so I guess, he's just tidying up, so it's fine that he died in there, I guess.
Yeah, at least he died there. You don't have to transport the body. Good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Perf.
Thanks, bud. Always coming through. Von Franz suggests an expedition with Thomas and Sivers to destroy Orlok's resting place at Schloss Grenenwald. But he privately theorizes from his occult research that the Nosferatu... I don't know why the keeps coming up. That Nosferatu can only be vanquished through the willing sacrifice of a fair maiden.
So the reason it says the Nosferatu is because Nosferatu literally just means vampire.
Oh.
So that's basically why.
Oh,
but that's fine. Either way.
I like to refer to him as that's his name, so.
That's the thing. It's not his name.
Oh, I guess that's true. That is true. Okay.
I don't care either way. I'm just saying, because I watched a thing about it. Stoker uses the term Nosferatu in the original.
Mm. Okay. Gotcha.
It's like a made-up word, though, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen approaches von Franz with this plan, and he agrees to distract Thomas while she psychically calls Orlok to her chamber. The 3 men unexpectedly find Knock in Orlok's coffin and kill him. Von Franz subsequently burns the crypt. However, Thomas realizes that the expedition was a ruse and hurries back to save Ellen. Orlok feeds on her blood until sunrise, at which point the sunlight causes him to shrivel and die. More like ooze rather than shrivel, but still.
He shrinks a little. He's like, yeah.
A little, but the blood and everything's coming from his eyes, and that's very a lot. Oh.
That's very a lot.
That's very
Stephanie
a lot.
From 13 Degrees of Screen.
Yes, of course. Thomas bursts into the bedroom and holds Ellen's hand as she perishes from blood loss, ultimately ending Orlok's reign and the plague. Yeah, Thomas just is like, wow, my wife is fully engaged still with the vampire, and he just holds her hand like, oh, poor Ellen. And yeah, comfort your wife, but his corpse is still on top of her. Maybe
push that thing off.
Yeah, push that off. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be close to it because there's also a chance he could just come back and be like, ah.
Yeah, I walked in, I would have just been like, you know what? It's too late. Never mind. I just walk right out. Yeah, it's gone. It's over.
Yeah. I don't think she needs this. So.
No. He's like, heck darn. She's dead. Just his body's just flopped on top of her.
Oh yeah. And he's such an opposing figure when he's alive and everything, and standing over her. He looks so broad, but then by the time they cut to him in the sunlight, I guess his shoulders are wide, but his legs have shriveled up to that size, the size of a child's.
Yeah.
He just looks so disproportionately tiny.
Yeah,
At least
maybe
from the bottom half down. I don't know why.
maybe that's when he died and he shriveled. Like his
Maybe.
legs weren't always like that because it looks like malnourished. Like it's just literal bones.
Yeah,
Skin
and I mean,
bones.
we don't see him. We only see him naked briefly for when he chases Thomas, but I don't know. I felt like when we first saw him, at least from like torso up, he seemed like kind of just like a decrepit, normal sized person.
Right.
But yeah, now he's like a little tiny.
He's a wee little vampire boy. A little gross wee little boy.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. He just looked disproportioned for what I thought, compared to how he looks laying on top of her when you look at just their heads.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, definitely. It looks really bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
It looks completely wrong because it is.
Yeah. Because it's a corpse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you like to get into our thoughts and rate some scenes?
Yeah. So, Stephanie.
Yes.
What did you think about the movie overall? What are your thoughts? Did you like it?
I liked it. I liked the atmosphere and everything. I will say going in, I didn't know it was going to be based in Germany. I haven't seen the original. So when they first show the year and everything and, 1838 Germany or something like that, I was like, the worst pies in Germany. Okay.
Would you think it was going to be England or something?
I thought it was London or something like that.
Okay.
And then also when Thomas makes his way into the real estate office, people are like, hey, you're late. He's waiting and stuff like that, making it seem like his boss is kind of mean. And I was like, here comes Mr. Humbug. Here comes Mr. Grinch. And I was like, oh, no, he's fine, I guess. Just a little creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's just a little too close to Muppets Christmas Carol for me. Oh. At least in the beginning. Of
course you tied it back to a Christmas movie.
Why not?
Look at you go.
Yeah,
not quite, but similar vibes, I guess.
Same time period, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I like the aesthetic and everything. The journey to Orlok's castle was crazy. I was like, wow, no job could pay me enough for this.
No, he got 2 cents,
Yeah, right? And
commission was not great.
Orlok even pays him with just a little tiny sack of coins. I was like, I think this is a bowling ball size amount of money. It should be.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's just enough to fit in your hand.
Adjusted for inflation, who knows what that would have been?
Oh yeah. I don't know. Orlok made it seem like I paid 2 pennies for you to get divorced from this guy. See how much your husband cares about you?
Right? I mean, yeah, it was a trick. It was all a trick. It didn't actually happen.
Yeah, for sure. What did you think of it?
I thought it was alright.
No,
it wasn't.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not to compare it to The Witch, but it is Robert Eggers. I much prefer The Witch. I thought this movie was a half an hour too long. Honestly, by the end, I'm like, can we wrap this up? Come on. When the whole fanfare with hit Thomas over her body, I'm like, she's dead. Credits, let's go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, that was a nice ending shot. I didn't really need to see Thomas's reaction. You could have just showed them decomposing on top of each other. Fine.
Right. And that's why I feel a lot of this, not a lot, but I feel they could have cut. The whole Romany gypsy part was cool, but if you take it out, what do you miss outside of the fact he sees that maybe a vampire was killed?
Yeah, right.
I feel I just feel they could have removed some things, and it just dragged for me. I think the atmosphere, the acting, that was all good, but story wise, by the end, I was like, okay, are we done? I'm done. Mm-hmm. But
yeah. I do like Nicholas Hoult a lot. So this is not his first vampire movie. He's also in Renfield, and whatever character he plays, he always has to be submitting to some overlooming force. Even in The Great, he has to basically submit to Catherine. So
even in The Menu, I don't know, I'm kind of over him. And when he was signing the papers, and he's just looks so baffled and crying and so upset. It reminded me of The Menu when the head chef was berating him. It was the same face. I'm like, this is The Menu.
I think he just does very well in these particular roles. So I don't know. Like I said, he always gets kind of like the shit kicked out of him by some sort of overlooming force. Like he's always kind of like the whipping boy for whatever. So, and I mean, I think he does that role well, but he hasn't really branched out. It feels like in comparison.
Yeah, no, the acting, he does a fine job. I'm just like, okay. Just like over it.
I think you should watch him in The Great, though. He is very charming in that. Like, he's very funny and kind of a dick, but also charming in that way of like love-hate him kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I didn't hate it. I like period pieces. It is a slow movie, but again, I like that. That was not a problem. I know there's a lot of criticism of it being slow, but like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is also based on a 1922 silent film, so like there's some degree of like this isn't gonna be. Not to say like silent films aren't good or exciting, but you know the source material.
Yeah,
and it is longer than that too by a good amount.
And I will say, going in, like we only saw like at least in the trailers, really, I only saw just kind of like Ellen freaking out, but not like. I didn't really get the connection that they were connected in any way. I thought maybe like, you know, this was the effects he was having on the town. Not, I thought it was more or less going to be about like Thomas experiencing Orlok and finding out, you know, like this creature lives here kind of thing. I didn't know it was going to have anything to do with the wife. So then when I was like, oh, so it all just comes down to like, he gotta fuck her, like
more or less. And then at that point, you're like, why is he bringing a plague? Like he could just go there.
Yeah.
Like I feel like again with the constraints of it being a remake from the original, the story wise, I feel like it would have been better if it was just about him. He can't leave his residence until there's that aspect. He can't until there's a willing person
that
involved
goes there. Yeah.
But I feel like it would have been cooler if it was about him just taking over the city as opposed to just trying to get with Ellen.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would.
I did look it up in the original too. Like it is about like he's doing stuff with the wife while he's hosting this guy at his castle. So yeah, I don't know. I just didn't know it was going to come down to Ellen being like the star of the show. I was like, oh, I mean, I guess she's fine. Like, but
yeah, as dramatic as she was, of course it was all about her, Stephanie.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like, it's me.
And I think it's me. But I guess maybe he brought the plague because, like, since they are equals in a way, like he's basically saying like she is almost similar to him. She's not just like any person he can compel to do anything. I think he can't really mesmerize her like he could like Thomas or somebody else to do something. So he needs her to willingly submit to him. So then that's why he brings the plague to ruin her life, basically, or at least the lives of people around him.
Yeah, I was going to say, so in trying to ruin her life, he's like, well, how do I do that? I know, ruin everybody else's life. Like he didn't
this
need to
nice
do that.
Family, like. But it felt so bad for them. They really got the raw end of the stick. And the wife was very sympathetic to her. Like, she really does miss her husband, you know? Like, we just need to be patient with her, telling Friedrich, you know, like just let her stay. We're all good friends here.
Yeah.
And Friedrich was like, I don't know, man. She's been taking up too much time.
Get her out of here.
Yeah.
I've had it.
I would have considered. I would have been like, you know, the doctor's already treating her at our house. What if he treats her at his office?
Yeah. Oh, Ellen.
I know medical practices are not great in the 1800s, but, you know, it's not stopping him from doing it in the house. So,
What are some of the scariest scenes for you?
I would definitely say a couple of the jump scares got me. And definitely Anna being eaten by the rats. That was upsetting. Also, I was like very surprised when she made it through to the next day. I was like, oh, well, she did. But then she's just sitting in her bed, like talking loopy. Like, I was like, oh, girl, you good? Like, she is not good.
She's not good, but she's alive. Yeah, so, I mean, depending on what you mean by good, she's not dead.
But I thought for sure dead. And then she's just, you know, She not great, but she there. And then obviously with it like being so much build up towards this ending like sex scene, basically, I was like, okay, I'm kind of really nervous like what all this is going to entail. That like unch when he like bites into her chest, like you can hear him breaking her sternum. I'm like, I didn't like that. Like,
you know, as you do. They like it rough.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all know Ellen likes it rough.
Girl, speaking of Ellen, for me, oh my God. Okay, so first of all, Nosferatu, I want to talk about his appearance real quick. Has a mustache, has this like weird strands of hair.
Yeah.
I thought he looked a little goofy in this movie, to be honest. I much prefer the original.
Really? It's just like a guy with pointy ears. Like he's think, not even like really an imposing force, I would say. But
I think the original Nosferatu is creepier.
Really? Okay.
Yes, visually.
Well, I guess he has like a little bit more of like a scary face. Like if you just rounded a corner and saw him going like.
Yeah, this new one, I thought they showed him way too. I mean, they show him quite a bit.
They show him a lot, and that's also problematic as well.
I was like, that's him? I don't know. I think the original, because, okay, were you big into SpongeBob? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Nosferatu was in one of the episodes?
Yes.
Scared the shit out of me. He's like, oh, Nosferatu, and then they cut to Nosferatu. I'm like, what the hell is that? It scared me. So I think the original Nosferatu, kind of goofy still from today's perspective, but I feel like they could have taken that same design and elevated it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't quite like his design in this, but leads me to my point is I think the scariest parts in this movie for me were when Ellen was possessed and she was convulsing and her eyes were rolling in the back of her head. Like her face when that was happening was scarier than Nosferatu or Count Orlok for me.
Yeah, because there's a couple of jump scares with her, like where they're like talking to her while she's, you know, sleeping, but having like these weird possession moments and stuff like that, and her eyes are just bleeding and rolling back in the back of her head, and they're still like, wow, really misses her husband. Like,
yeah, again, no ma'am, there's something wrong.
But yeah, so she's definitely a little creepy at times. I still say the lackey though is more intimidating than Nosferatu just because he is unhinged.
Yeah, seriously.
Nosferatu, he seems to have like kind of a little bit more restraint with what he does. He more or less yells and threatens rather than actually doing stuff at first, you know. He at least gives you a warning, like, you know, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah, 3 days, bitch. Oh, I just put up 4 fingers and said 3 days. I'm stupid. 13 degrees is green. Yeah. It's me.
13.
Yeah, I just have 13 fingers. So
yeah, I do really think that they kind of shot themselves in the foot with showing him so much. Like, I think the scarier parts were where we saw him in the shadows, or when you see his like little fingies like guiding the way to different things. Like, love those long fingies.
I love the shadow effects.
Yes,
like because his shadow does shit. Mind you, it unlocks doors and. That's really cool. I think they could have done more with that, personally.
Oh, and then with the curtain and like him kind of like the wind hits the curtain and then you see his shadow there kind of like standing there looming over her. But honestly, like they show him pretty much every time you see him, or at least you get a good estimate of what he looks like. I thought maybe in the sunlight, I'd be like, okay, he's going to look really gross now. Not that much different now.
Yeah. Kind of like me. Yeah, I didn't find him particularly scary. It was like everything else that was the issue.
It was more the vibe. Yeah.
Vibes. His movie's vibes. So that being said, what did you have this rated?
I would give it like a 10.5 and 11.
Okay.
How about you?
So my guesstimate before watching it was a 10, but I would probably bump that down to like an 8.
Really? Okay.
There was nothing in there that I can't unsee this. Like,
okay.
It was more spooky, like kind of what we said, the vibes. Again, if like possession, I know I've talked about this before, possession type things freak me out. And there's a good amount of that. So that's where it's kind of up there for me.
Yeah.
But as far as Count Orlok himself, I'm like, okay, whatever. Not that scary. So yeah, I would bump it down into like the 8 range.
Okay. Yeah,
personally.
I think I would feel most comfortable at 10, like, because I think it was mainly the tension building of just not knowing what was going to happen. But then, like, once you see it, you're like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. So, yeah, I think I'd be most comfortable at 10. Like, there are some images where I'm like, ew, but not like a this is too scary kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'll give it the 10 for the vibes and
10 for the vibes.
10 for the vibes.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show and listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful, and we will always appreciate that. If you are watching the YouTube version, you can like and comment on the video and let us know what you'd like us to watch next.
You can find us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.